Thank you for coming out on behalf of the Black Student Union. We have, this is our special Black Panther History Month event. We have special guest speakers, Billy X and our instructor, Judy Juanita, here to tell about the history and culture of the Black Panther Party, and in honor of the breakfast program that was so popular and made such an impact in our communities today, and has been a program model for many communities out there around the world as far as honoring the legacy of the Black Panther Party and the contribution to the community. So that's one of the importance of why we're here today. It's 50 years since the breakfast program has started, and it was immediately feeding the people and taking care to the immediate neighbor next to you, and it was deemed as a threat to the United States government because they were actually doing something that needed to be done, that is basic needs of the people. So, you know, that's what Black culture and the Black Panther Party is about taking care of the needs of the people, protecting their best interests, self-defense, and we just want to continue to honor that legacy here in 2019 at Laney College Black Student Union here in Oakland. So I'm gonna go ahead and get things started. We have first speaker is a CBO. He has a table in the back, and he has a lot of Black Panther memorabilia, and he will be introducing himself and stating a little bit of the history of the Black Panther Party. The CBO.
Part to the people. We're gonna start it off with a little bit of call and response. So when I say part to the people, then I want y'all to say part to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people. Yeah, okay, I'll tell y'all a little bit about myself. My name is ECBO Holiday, AKA the Revolutionary CBO the Automatic. I'm a hip hop revolutionary. I got a group called the Black and Brown Unity Project, and we are committed to advancing the legacy of the Black Panther Party 10-point platform as written by Dr. U.P. Newton and Bobby Seals in 1966 through music, art, fashion, film, hip-hop, modeling, theater, photography, and everything that has to do with the arts. We won't compromise our mission by accepting any government funds or funds with any strings attached. We are calling on everybody who supports our movement to support us by making a donation. You can go to the table or go online, listen to some of our music, because we're gonna take the money and make as many t-shirts as possible, and we're gonna travel from Africa to Brazil and do our hip hop in the 10-point platform workshop. You know what I mean? And so right now, we're gonna kick it off. Me and my comrade, Kevin, we're gonna say the 10-point platform. So, in a little bit about the history of the Black Panther Party, in every newspaper, it was the 10-point platform. So, point number one, we want freedom. We want the power to determine the destiny of our Black and oppressed community.
Point number two, we want full employment for all our people.
Point number three, we want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of the Black and oppressed community.
Point number four, we want decent housing fit for the shelter of human beings.
Point number five is especially important because we right here in Laney College. We want an education that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society and teaches us our true position in history.
Point number six, we want all Black males and females updated, to be exempt from the United States military. We believe that we are the first outlook and outreach to self-defense and protecting ourselves and making sure that our community and our people are safe. So yeah, we want our people out of the military services, not serving us as a people, and really contributed to protecting this land and our people.
That's point number 8. But point number 6, we want completely free health care. We want completely free health care for all black and oppressed people.
Point number 7, we want immediate end to police brutality and the murder of black people. It's time for a change, y'all. 2019. Still going on.
I say. Now, point number 8 is we want to end to all wars of aggression, and we want all black people to be exempt from military service.
Point number 9, we demand a trial by a jury of our peers. Those who will represent us in our near community, we believe that they should be trialing and giving us our justice in our community.
Last but not least, point number 10. We want land, bread, housing, clothing, education, justice, and peace, and people's control of modern technology. Now, those are the things that the Black Panthers wanted and that the community wanted in 1966. And it also goes on to talk about what they believe. But now in 2019, it's up to the young people in the community to go into their own community and find out the needs of their own community of today in 2019 and pick up the torch and carry on the legacy. So with that, we're going to kick it off and say, Ashe.
Thank you. Appreciate you, CBO, coming out and introducing us to the Panther memorabilia and paperwork. We're going to carry on, and I'm going to introduce you to our next guest speaker. Our next guest speaker has put many, many years as far as involvement in the Black Panther Party and community contributions and continuing the legacy and making this the Black Panther legacy just still prominent and potent to this day. So I'd like to introduce Billy X, former Black Panther and Panther organizer.
Thank you. My name is Billy X. Jennings. I'm a former member of the Black Panther Party. I joined the party when I was 17. In 1968, I had just graduated from high school, and I was attending Laney College in the summer of '68, and there was Panthers on the campus selling Black Panther Party newspapers. I started buying them on a weekly basis. And so the next month, I was sitting in my 11 o'clock to my 11:50 criminology class on Laney campus. Just to inform you, back in the day, this campus was not here. This campus was back on the other side of the lake there. So back where the Board of Education was, that's where the Laney College campus was at originally. Then it moved here later. But back in those days, I was attending my criminology class, and from 11 o'clock to 11:50, and I heard Huey Newton's trial had just started, and you could hear them chanting "Free Huey" from Laney College. So after my class was over, around about 11:50, me and my friends bounced out of class and walked around to Huey's trial had just started, and so I started picking up information. So the Black Panther Party opened up an office on 73rd and East 14th. That was the first adventure of the party into East Oakland. So I was living at that time on 75th and Spencer, and the Panther office was right on the corner of 73rd, and you had to pass the office in order to get on the bus. So I signed up to become a Panther, and you don't become a Panther immediately. You have to go through a 6 to 8 week training period, right? So there's a book list that's given to you from the very start, maybe 35 different books by Fanon, by Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Lumumba, other revolutionaries. Those are books you have to read. Also, and study and attend political education class, right? And so I started becoming a member, and another thing that you had to do to become a Panther, you had to require a weapon, because the Black Panther Party was a self-defense group. Black Panther Party was a revolutionary organization that believed in self-defense. We kind of differed from any other group that came before us because we believed in self-defense. We believed in the word of Malcolm X. We called ourselves the children of Malcolm. So when I first joined the party, we started attending political education classes twice a week. Also, you're assigned to a jurisdiction, like say a 20 block or 10 block square area. So after selling the Black Panther Party newspaper during the day, you would maybe go into the community at night and go door to door and find out what people need in the community. So I did that for a few years. I sold the Black Panther Party newspaper on Laney College campus. So in January 1969, the Black Panther Party had been talking about this for maybe 8 or 9 months about a breakfast program. So the breakfast program kicked off in January 1969 at West Oakland, at 27th and West at St. Augustine Church. This was a very significant program the Black Panther Party had, because during that time, Oakland's poverty level was below the government poverty level. So you have many poor people in Oakland, East Oakland and West Oakland. And at that time, there was many kids coming to school hungry, and some even fainted from hunger. And so the city's concept of dealing with the problem was to take that kid home and so he can get some food. But the logic of it is, if they had food from the get-go, he would have ate it. So there was a lot of hunger in the community. So the Black Panther Party took it upon itself to merge education and nutrition together. First time in American history, a group had done that. So it started in West Oakland, here in Oakland. And within the first month, at that time of the Black Panther Party's growth, we had 48 chapters in 30 major cities in America. So the program was very successful. People accepted it. So Bobby Seale in January declared that every Black Panther Party office across the nation would start sponsoring these free breakfast programs. Now, what's very important about the breakfast program is because it showed that the community, that we cared about them, that we wanted to solve problems that was facing the community. Here on this board here, this is a typical breakfast program. You know, young kids, most of our breakfast programs were at churches. You know, most churches have community centers. And so at St. Augustine Church, that was run by Father Neal. Father Earl Neal was the pastor of that church. He went on to become the minister of religion for the Black Panther Party. And right now, at this very day, he's in South Africa. He is Desmond Tutu's administrative assistant, right? So at his church, we started feeding kids. Most of the kids were going to Durant Elementary School, which was along the path where the church was, right? So what we did was we had 5 people on the breakfast program. We had one person who was designated to walk the kids across the street, because at that time, 7 o'clock in the morning, we had a lot of people rushing to go to work. Then you had a person at the desk who would welcome the kids in when they came into the church. We would write their names down and ask them what they're allergic to, what they want, what they don't like, because there's no sense of throwing food away if they don't particularly like what you're having that particular day. So then we had a person who would serve the food, and then after that, the kids would go off to school. Now, by doing this, this embarrassed the United States government, because during this time, the United States government is saying that the Black Panther Party is no good, we're thugs, we're gangsters, but we're feeding more people in the morning than any program that they have. So by 1971, the government was so embarrassed they had to start a breakfast program. So the breakfast program that you see now exists, maybe your kids go to it, or maybe you went to it as a young person. Well, that breakfast program was inspired by the Black Panther Party. Now, the government says they feed something like 13.5 million kids per year. So you can multiply that by from 1971 to this day. So there's millions and millions of American kids who have breakfast in the morning, but I bet 0% of them know that the Black Panther Party initiated this program to feed them, right? So this program is like part of the institution of the community now. You know, also, the Black Panther Party started a number of programs, of social programs. At the flyer I gave out, this right here, It has a 10-point program in the back of it on the very last page. And as it was read before, what we want and what we believe is also put it in the 10-point program. So when Huey and Bobby put the Black Panther Party program together, we first started out patrolling the police because that was the first immediate thing we had to deal with. I mean, there was other things that came before number 7, which kind of dealt with police brutality, but that was immediate because people were dying from Hunters Point to Richmond every week by police brutality and being killed as well. So the Black Panther Party legacy started out serving the people. We started with the breakfast program, and we had a number of other programs. We had the Black Panther Party brought you medical clinics. We opened up 13 different medical clinics across America, and we featured sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia was a disease at that time that people didn't know about. If you had it, you didn't know you had it. And if you had it, your doctor didn't know what it was because he didn't know what it was until the Black Panther Party started doing research and defining what sickle cell anemia was. And not only that, in this particular photo, we had cadres going into the community to give people sickle cell anemia tests. We didn't wait for people to come to our clinics. We went to where people were, in public housing or at schools and other geographical locations. Now, when I first joined the party, we did a lot of work in East Oakland. I worked in the East Oakland office, and we opened up 3 breakfast programs. One on Eads Avenue in Douglas. We opened up another one in Jingletown over in Fruitvale area, and we opened up a breakfast program on 68th Avenue, right? And soon after that, you gotta remember, this is 1968, 1969. So also that same year, we have liberation schools, because during that time, it wasn't until I got to Laney College in 1968 that I had my first Black history class, you know? And we were studying from a book called Before the Mayflower, and we were studying from another book by Leroy Jones called Blues People. So Black Panther Party was big on education. Our thing was to educate and organize people, so we put out a newspaper on a weekly basis, right? So the Black Panther Party newspaper came out every week. It sold for 25 cents. And inside the paper was a lot of solutions to problems, right? On this particular issue of the Panther paper, we were dealing with BSUs in the Bay Area. And we have Laney College here, and they were dealing with problems. Merritt College had just opened, and Grove Street College, Alameda College had just opened. So we were organizing people in various ways. In 1968, there was a big strike at San Francisco State College. Black Panther Party members and students from San Francisco State was a part of that. Also, in the following year, in 1969, at UC Berkeley, there was a student strike around ethnic studies. Black Panther Party members helped to support the students during that time, and they were able to secure ethnic studies, which started in California and went across the country. So students and members of the Black Panther Party here in the Bay Area are kind of responsible for a lot of ethnic study classes throughout America. You know, because ethnic studies was passed, I mean, it opened up jobs for maybe 2,500 different professors to be hired for tenure. There was Asian Alliance, Asian Studies, Mexican American Studies, Native American Studies. All these groups, all these different student-sponsored classes came from efforts of students wanted to change their education. That goes back to number 5 on the 10-point program that we had read earlier. Now, if you have time to check out this exhibit here, we have women here. This is dedicated to women in the Black Panther Party, which starts next month in March. But this particular picture here, Laney played a very important part. Like in this particular, in this picture right here, we're giving out, in 1972, we gave out 10,000 free bags of groceries. In that picture, you see Bobby Seale putting food in those bags. See, that was right downstairs here, in 1972. So when we gave away those 10,000 bags, we used the BSU at Laney had secured the student center. So all those bags of groceries you see that was given out at the Oakland Auditorium was started here. We had the BSU he had the BSU at Laney, BSU at Merritt, BSU at UNC Berkeley, Stanford, BSU. All these BSUs came together to help us launch these community survival programs, right? And so Laney plays a very important part, just like Merritt does. Now, Huey and Bobby and some of the original Panthers went to Merritt, but many Black Panther Party members went to Laney College because they were from East Oakland. So I just wanted to hit on that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the Black Panther Party's effort towards ending the war. Black Panther Party was anti-war. During that time, the Vietnam War was going on. The Black Panther Party was involved in all the major demonstrations in the war here in the Bay Area and across the country, as well as we had an alliance with some of the biggest student groups like SDS, Student for Democratic Society. We had an alliance with the MO people, the Mobilization Against the War, Black Panther Party. We had an alliance with many groups. Some of the words that came from the Black Panther Party is Rainbow Coalition. That was our effort to organize many different groups across the country and work in an organized type manner. One of the groups that we worked with here on this campus as well as in the streets was United Farm Workers. When Cesar Chavez was organizing the grape strike and the letter strike, students from this campus participated in closing Safeway down. Safeway was the biggest distributor of grapes and lettuce, and Safeway was in East Oakland. Safeway's main headquarters on 55th right off of Seminary. They were, so they were distributing all these grapes and stuff in the community. So we was organizing. We shut down Safeways throughout San Francisco and Oakland in support of United Farm Workers. So in 1972, here on this campus, Bobby Seale launched his effort to run for mayor of Oakland. Bobby Seale and Elaine Brown, right downstairs in the student center, announced they were running for mayor of Oakland. Now, that is one of the things that helped change Oakland, because we started registering people to vote, thousands of people who had been unregistered to vote. Because prior to the Black Panther Party registering to vote, Black people was only allowed to vote. The voting right passed in 1965, right? So from 1965 to 1970 is only a few years. So there's many Black people in the city of Oakland who had never been asked to vote. And by registering to vote, we were telling people they had local community power, right? Even though Bobby didn't win that election, in the very next election, we helped Lionel Wilson secure being the first Black mayor of the city of Oakland. And he would only be able to do that through the efforts of the Black Panther Party. So Laney has been like a root part of the legacy of the Black Panther Party. It might not have been in the first beginning when the party first started off, but all along this time, Laney has been progressive. We've had Black Panther Party members who were head of the BSU and also the Student Association here on campus. Now, here in some of the photos here, you have the city center, which is downtown. During that time, the city center displaced thousands and thousands of people in the city of Oakland, right? They were building BART on 7th Street. BART was running. It must have tore down like 3,500 homes in the city of Oakland, most of them in the Black community, to build the city center and the post office on 7th Street. So there was a lot of Black people displaced. So the Black Panther Party sued Caltrans, sued the city, and sued the state for replacement housing. So in this Black Panther Party newspaper, we're showing that we have won the suit, and the city of Oakland had to build replacement housing. And one of the places they built that was right there on 5th and San Leandro Boulevard, right there, right on the corner. That long complex it was a 300-person complex, and they had to build that for displaced people, and they did some other things. So the Black Panther Party legacy in the city of Oakland and Laney College campus is rooted deep in Black Panther Party legacy. Yes, the Black Panther Party only existed from 1966 to in 1980. And I was in the party from 1968 to 1974, working out in East Oakland. So the legacy, the many things we've done in the city of Oakland, our legacy would never die, you know? Just like the traffic light on 55th and Market that was put there because of the Black Panther Party. Some of the other historical locations in Oakland is our office at 1048 Peralta Street in West Oakland with Black Panther Party headquarters there. Our headquarters was on 85th and East 14th, which was when the Black Panther Party ceased to exist. We sold our property to Allen Temple, which made Allen Temple able to expand their church. To expand their church from where it was all the way to East 14th, and also in front of their church is a plaque saying that this is a historical location of the Black Panther Party. So there's kids, there's BSU, many students from BSU, from Fremont, McClimates, Castlemont, became members of the Black Panther Party or worked in our breakfast program. And that was another way that people could work with the party, is work through our survival program, our free food program, our medical programs, our Educate the People program, and our school. Our school was the first charter school in the city of Oakland, deemed so by Jerry Brown when he was the governor the first time. And we had professional people working at our school, like Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou taught English at our Oakland Community School. We had Rosa Parks come in and teach classes. So our work in the community would never die, even though the Black Panther Party doesn't exist anymore. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be over here, or you can take a look at some of the displays I have about our legacy and about things we've done in the past. Now, you can pick up some flyers from what we're doing today. Just like last week, we had a Huey P. Newton Day. Huey P. Newton was born February 17th, 1942, so we had an event for him in West Oakland at the West Oakland Library. Every year we have a Bobby Hutton Day. Bobby Hutton was the first member of the Black Panther Party. He joined the party when he was 15 years old. He was the first to die. He was killed by the Oakland Police Department. Every April we have an event at Bobby Hutton Park in West Oakland. So this year we're going to have a number of events. We're going to have pop-ups. We're going to have events and speakers all over the city. So I like to end it right now, but we have a website called itsabouttime.bpp.com. You can go there if you're doing research on the party or you want to download some history. You can go there, and also there's a lot of videos available if you have kids or you're teaching a class. There's a lot to be learned. So I'd like to end it right now. Thank you for letting me come here and talk about my experience at Laney College.
Everybody give Billy X a hand for his presentation on depth in the Black Panther history and culture here in at Laney College. I'd like you all to, please take a moment to touch in and ask any particular questions if you have any lingering. He'll be happy to answer them. And also, if you want to get more involved in honoring the Black Panther legacy, please touch in with him. All right, moving on. We're going to bring up our next guest speaker. She is a very prominent lady in Oakland as well. And I believe one of her recent speaking engagements was right across the street at the museum. And she basically did a presentation introducing folks about the Black Panther history and culture and telling her experience also. So Billy X shared his experience as far as his involvement with Laney College Black Student Union and the Breakfast Program. So here's Professor Instructor Judy Juanita, and she's going to give you her story on the legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we all need to get up, because it's cold in here. Let's get up and let's kind of walk around, because really this is an exhibit as well as just a talk. And I'd like to, to kind of encourage that kind of movement, because what Billy and I are talking about is a movement. So just on a personal note, to show you how involved we all are with each other, I started college here not here, on Grove Street, and it was called Oakland City College then. And I was 16 years old. So my locker, we had lockers then, and my locker was right next to Huey Newton's girlfriend's locker. Yeah, Margaret. So Huey would come around all the time asking me, where's Margaret? Where's Margaret? And that's some of the history that I document in Virgin Soul. So I wrote a book about my time in the Black Panther Party and how I got into it. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about that today. So there I was at Oakland City College, which we referred to in a very derogatory way as City. You know, where you going to college? City. And that meant you didn't have enough money to go anyplace else. You ended up at City. So, but however, it was an extremely exciting place. There were demonstrations, there were speakers, there were tables from the SDS, Students for a Democratic Society, W.E.B. Du Bois Club, Fair Play for Cuba, which I didn't have any idea what it meant. But all along Grove Street, which is now Martin Luther King, there were speakers just all day long, all afternoon long. So even if you weren't revolutionary, you were getting it by osmosis, just by being in the environment. So I met Huey and Bobby then there, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. And I was one of those students who was determined to transfer. And I didn't want to get in any trouble. However, they intrigued me so much that I did write articles about them for the school newspaper. I was a journalist then. I was on my school newspaper from elementary school right on up through. So I wrote about all these militants, including Ernie Allen and Isaac Moore, and they were all influenced by something called the African American Association, started by Don Warden. And that was way back when, and his name became Khalid Mansour. But he was a prominent attorney at the time, and he influenced them. He had people reading. That's kind of like one of the main differences I always saw between now and then, where we were all reading. We read all day long, and then we'd go out to these big events. We'd go out to rallies and events, and we know what people were talking about, you know. So it was a big thing to read Frantz Fanon and Malcolm X and so forth. We just read all the time. I transferred from San Francisco to San Francisco State from City College. When I went to San Francisco State, it was more of the same. It was an extremely radical environment with lots of students from all over the world, including many students from Africa, many students from many states. San Francisco State was a destination. People wanted to come. It was very hard to get accepted into San Francisco State at that time. So it was very exciting to be there. And before long, Huey and Bobby came to San Francisco State. I transferred in 66. In 67, Huey and Bobby came to San Francisco State recruiting in the same exact way that IBM and Clorox came to the schools. You know how the corporations come and they set up a room and they have sign-up sheets? Well, Huey and Bobby had the same thing going on. So my roommates and I went there, and this was spring 67, and we listened, and my roommate said, let's join. and they went back, and I had 4 roommates at the time, and I said, these guys aren't playing hopscotch, because I knew them I knew how serious they were, that they were committed, and they weren't playing, but it was what was later called the Summer of Love, okay? That was a newspaper term. It wasn't called that at the time, okay? Those of us, though, who lived in the urban cities knew all of those summers in the mid-'60s were the long, hot summers. And that was a particularly long, hot summer one, where they have 9 and 10-day urban riots in places like Detroit, Los Angeles. She's shaking her head. She knows what I'm talking about. So by August of that year, I joined with my roommates. Yeah. So I joined, you know. So each of us then, like Billy said, Billy Jennings, we all had roles. I went and helped Eldridge and Kathleen with the newspaper because I had all these skills as a journalist. My roommate Joanne corralled the troops. She handled the troops. She was tough. My other roommate, Betty Carter, who's now dead, ran the office. Janice Garrett Forte was Bobby Seale's scheduler, and Evelyn Proctor was the treasurer. So we all had a function to do, you know, and our parents, though our parents were very afraid for us, they knew, particularly my parents in Oakland, they knew about the Oakland Police Department and that it was rotten to the core and that it was corrupt. And my father had had encounters with the Oakland Police Department, so it was not unusual for the parents of all of these children who were involved to know about police brutality and police oppression. And many of our parents had come from the South anyway. So I worked doing whatever they told me to do on the newspaper. However, Huey Newton then was involved in the shootout with the Oakland Police Department. And right after that, and he was jailed, and the Free Huey movement started. So what happened was all of a sudden, the Panthers became internationally known. And we started getting donations from all over the world. So all of our activities stepped up then, and a lot of that I detail in here. So that was in the fall of '67, and then in April '68, a lot of things happened. Martin Luther King was assassinated on April 4th, and then 3 days later, little Bobby Hutton was also assassinated in West Oakland. All of a sudden, there was what I call a long black line. Yes, the Panthers were holding it up with direct action, self-defense on one end, but everybody fell in at that point when Martin Luther King was killed. So a lot of the party leadership was jailed. We had a meeting in Mosswood Park, Mosswood Park across from Kaiser. Yeah, okay. So we'd meet in parks because we were avoiding surveillance from the FBI. And during that meeting, Huey reorganized the party. Okay? And at that point, he said, so my name at that time was Judy Hart. And my boyfriend was Buzz Thomas. And he said, so I want to appoint Judy Hart to be editor-in-chief of the paper. He said, she's a Together sister, and I know her from Oakland City College, and she's a journalist. So all of a sudden, my whole life changed within, like, instantly. And I became one of a series of editors of the Black Panther Party newspaper. Okay? And then so that was 68. So then at that point, all of us who had been Panthers and students, we went back to San Francisco State. Many of us had either dropped out or had stopped registering. We went back to San Francisco State and we became the Black Panther Party on campus. By then, my husband, Clarence Thomas, not the fake Clarence Thomas on the U.S. Supreme Court, but the real Clarence Thomas, the labor leader who has led strikes here for the ILWU, okay? And we all knew him as Buzz. Buzz became the campus coordinator for the Black Panther Party. So we took all of the principles that we were learning in the Black Panther Party and we organized at San Francisco State. And at San Francisco State, we eventually then organized, as Billy pointed out to you, the strike. And it was the longest student strike in history. I was the editor of the Black Fire, which was the student newspaper, the student strike newspaper. And then we, after a 4.5-month strike, which was pretty violent and was covered in all the newspapers, so forth, we had our demands met, and we established the first Black Studies department, which led to ethnic studies. So the first Black Studies program in the nation. So there's a rich history. I wanted to point out something to you that I think is very, very important. I have my books up here, but I wanted to point out to you the Black Scholar. Dr. Nathan Hare and Robert Chrisman started the Black Scholar magazine. This looks like this. And I'll just pass this around. You can see. Dr. Hare was the first chair of the Black Studies program at San Francisco State. And they started this scholarly journal, and it's still in existence today. And what it has meant is that many of the Black scholars that we know today, from Henry Louis Gates to Bell Hooks, so forth, Angela Davis, were published in the Black Scholar magazine, which was a direct outgrowth of the Black Studies department and the Black student movement and the Black Panther movement. So it means that a lot of the Black professors and Black chairs of departments, of African Studies departments throughout the United States were able to publish their work in Black Scholar. And because they were able to be published, then they were able to obtain tenure. So that's just one offshoot of the movement. This movement was so important, and you could probably spend a lot of your time on campuses writing dissertations about all the offshoots of this important movement. So I'm really happy that you asked me to come today, and I'm really happy that I'm at Laney College, where I've been able to really keep so many of these ideas alive, and I thank you so much.
One more, give it a hand for Judy Juanita, Professor Juanita. Yeah, all right. All right, now, just further in the program, for the last moment before we release it, and we just kind of give you a moment to browse and mingle with the guest speakers, we will have a question and answer. So we're going to ask Billy X to come on up, and Ms. Juanita as well. And if anyone has any questions or about the Black Panther Party legacy and history and culture, please feel free to come and ask about the Black Breakfast Program and the legacy. All right. Is there any questions for Billy X? Any questions, Billy X, Judy Wani?
At the end of your speech, you said, and that was the end of the Black Party, the Black Panther movement. My question to you is, what happened to the Cubs? We're not dead. So yeah, but the leadership, you know, we take our guidance to the leadership. We're those students that you see right there, sitting there. We're those children. So how did it end, and how do we begin again? Because the work is not done yet.
The sister asked, I made a comment and said the party lasted to 1980, and she was saying, what about people today, you know? Well, as time moves on, right, and every generation has to make their stake, have to make their stand in society. And just like the party made its stand, young people today are going to have to make their stand. They're going to figure out and organize amongst yourself, figure out what's important, how you're going to go about and do it. Every generation had to do the same thing, you know. So I would say there's much work that needs to be done dealing with racism, discrimination, poverty. There's plenty of work to be done. And I would say when I went to see it, when I was in Cuba, somebody asked Asada a question, and Asada said that you have problems, you start from where you're at. You look to your left, you look to your right, you start from right there. You find people who have the common ideals and start organizing, you know, one step at a time, one step at a time. Find somebody who thinks like you, who see the problems like you, and start from there. Because when the Black Panther Party started, it was only Huey and Bobby. Questions?
So many parallels on what we're seeing today and what you were seeing in the 60s during the time of the Panther Party. Even listening to you read the 10 points of what was being required or requested, and you know, same things are true today. So what do you see as the difference in terms of why we don't have, I guess I think of Black Lives Matter as probably the strongest organized group representing Black people today. But what do you see as the hope for organizing and continuing the kind of work that was done by the Panther Party? Because Black Lives Matter is really focused on, brutality, discrimination, and death of Black people, not as holistic as the Black Panther Party. So what do you see as hope?
Well, as time moves on, things change, but more or less they stay the same. So when we read the 10-point program, we talked about decent housing. That is one of the biggest issues dealing with people in the Bay Area today. Affordable housing, place to live, homelessness. So there are some groups who are out there dealing with the problem. So I suggest people who want to deal with housing, discrimination, there's groups that you can Google that are doing work in the community. Like, for instance, Black Lives Matters, but Black Lives Matters deals with only a few problems, like police brutality, discrimination, racism, and so forth. So there's many things to get involved in, but you have to go look and find a group that you're comfortable with and start working in the community. It's not an easy solution. Just like the Black Panther Party was a one-of-a-kind organization. Black Panther Party was a group that dealt with everything. We dealt with organizing in unions. We dealt with rent strikes. We dealt with starting clinics, breakfast programs. We started patrolling the cops so they wouldn't kill and brutalize Black people. So there are people out in the community who want to do things, but you know, you just have to look for a group that you're comfortable with and start working with them.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I remember that at the Million Man March, Minister Farrakhan told everybody, this is very good that you came out. Now go home and work in an organization. Don't care which one, work in an organization. And I think that's what, if we get up, like I said, and walk and look at this, we'll see that people were working in the organization, and there's plenty of work still to do.
You know, there's a lot of hidden history with the party. For instance, the Black Panther Party was the first group that kind of put community control as a main issue. Matter of fact, in the city of Berkeley, the Black Panther Party, along with other organizations, was able to put that on the ballot in 1970. Community control of police, the first time in America people had a chance to vote for what kind of police department they wanted. Even though our measure lost, it was an educational lesson, and many communities started forming police commissions, police review commissions. They started hiring more black people. One of the things about the Black Panther Party, the growth of the Black Panther Party came about in 1965. 1965 was how the Black Panther Party was able to come together in 1966, because some of the things in 1965, for instance, the murder of Malcolm X in February 1965, the March on Selma, where people were beaten, brutalized for registering to vote. Also that particular year, there was a law passed called the Miranda Act. Everybody knows what the Miranda Act is, right? And the Miranda Act is when a police arrests you, he has to warn you that you can have a lawyer, you don't have to say anything against yourself, and so forth. Also in 1965, you had the passing of the Voting Right Bill, and also in August 1965, you had the Watts riot in 65. In 1965, President Johnson passed a bill called the Voting Right Bill. And so in a place called Lowell, Alabama, in November of 1965, black people had a chance to vote for the very first time. And so what they did to educate the black people there, during the previous elections, the Republican Party used a white rooster for all the Republican candidates they wanted the white people to support. Even if they couldn't read, they would recognize the rooster. So when black people was able to vote in Lowell County, they looked around for a symbol and they found the Panther. They put the Panther on the ballot. So when black people went to vote, they seen the Panther, they would vote the Panther. So that is where we got our Panther from, 1965, down in Lowell County, where black people first began to vote. Now, I had some young people ask me about the movie The Panther. Was the party inspired by the movie The Panther, the comic The Panther? I said, no, the comic came out in 1967. We got the Panther from came out in 1965, so it's historical. I told them no, Huey probably was not reading the Panther comic book at that time. They were reading the Red Book and books by Che Guevara. Any questions?
I just want to make a quick comment that the legacy definitely lives in my travels abroad. Both in Turkey and in Germany, I had two different people come up to me on two different occasions and talked about the breakfast program, and that because they were so inspired by the Black Panther Party that in their countries today they have the breakfast program. So it's a legacy that's around the world. Oh.
Any more questions? All right. Well, just to end out and close out, we want to let you know that we have small refreshments in the back, some water, some turkey sandwiches, and veggie sandwiches as well. We appreciate you coming out to the events. And one more time, can you please give a round of applause for Billy X and Judy Juanita? Thank you for coming out here today and representing on behalf of the Black Student Union and the Black Panther Party. We really respect and appreciate your wisdom that you shared with us today and the history and the legacy. You can only find that here, y'all, right here in Oakland, where this started. You know, the whole movement started, and it's not dead and it's not over, and we still got a lot of goals and destinations to strive to. So we just gonna continue to honor the legacy all throughout Black History Month. I really appreciate y'all coming out and taking some time to hear some legacy and culture from our city. And we hope to see you at future events for Black History Month. And please, feel free to take a look and get a deeper look at the exhibits and ask questions to our guest speakers. Appreciate y'all coming out today. Thank you very much on behalf of the Black Student Union. Black power, all power to the people.
Okay.